frozen dessert using fruit and a lot of other ingredients. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. What I've got here, and this one allows you a lot of flexibility to make it appropriate to the holiday that's coming up or to the party or whatever event you've got. I've got 2 cups of sherbet that I've allowed to soften up a bit, and I'm going to put it in the bottom of a 9x5 pan. And I've lined it with foil, and you want to be a little bit careful to make sure that you get the foil down into all the corners because we're going to be pushing down on it, and you don't want to poke through it. Also make sure that you get it pushed up against the ends because you don't want the ingredients to be frozen into the ends too much. They're going to do it a little bit. We're simply going to press this down. Now you can change the sherbet that you use, or you could use a sorbet. I'm using a raspberry sherbet today, but you could use a strawberry one if you make your own. You could use lime. I'm going to use fruits that kind of match, so that with lime you might want to use kiwi. With an orange you could use mandarin oranges, you could use peaches, you could use a lemon sherbet. So there's lots of choices. We're going to just get this flattened out in here, and then I'm going to put it in the freezer for 10 minutes so that it can set up before we put on the next layer. Now, because it's in the freezer for such a short time, we didn't need to cover it with anything. This one's actually been sitting in there for 10 minutes and it's ready to go. So I'm going to set it right over here while I get the next layer prepared. For the next layer, I'm going to use 1 cup of fat-free milk. You can use 2% or 1% depending on your family needs, and a package of instant vanilla pudding. And again, this allows you some flexibility. I'm choosing vanilla because I want the color difference here. And we're simply going to whip this with a whisk. You could use a hand mixer, not the electric kind, but the kind that you crank. And we're going to do this for about 2 minutes because we want it to be more like a pudding so we can fold some other ingredients into this. After 2 minutes, you can see it's very pudding-like, but it's thicker than pudding because we only used half the amount of milk that would usually be used. Take off as much of that as I can so we don't lose it. So what I'm going to do now, and also it's a lot more yellow. I'm really going for something much more pale. But what we're going to do now is fold in some frozen whipped topping. I'm using a light version. If you wanted to lighten the calories on this recipe, you could make sure you use skim milk like I did, or fat-free milk. You could also use the sugar-free pudding mix, and then you can use the actual whipped topping that doesn't have the calories, the free version. You're simply going to fold this in because you don't want to lose much of the air that's in here, but you want to make sure that it ends up all being the same color. So it just takes a couple of minutes to get that all blended together. And then what we're going to do after we get this folded together is put it over the top of the sherbet layer that we have. And that's going to then go back in the freezer and freeze probably at least 3 to 5 hours. Probably be best if it did it overnight. So when you stop seeing streaks here, you're ready to go. Let's get our next part here. Now, because this one's going to be in the freezer a long time, you are going to want to cover it either with some saran wrap or some plastic wrap and actually layer it down onto the surface of the pudding whipped topping layer you've got here. And then if you're actually making this ahead of time, say a week ahead of time, which you could do, you want to probably put it in several layers of heavy-duty wrap, or even a large plastic bag if you've got one that it'll fit in. Now, before you do that, I'd actually let it freeze overnight so that it's nice and solid, and then I would take it out of the aluminum foil and then wrap it in the bag. That will enable you to get it into a bag more easily, and also let you have some, time to use your pan for other things in between. Again, this is going in the freezer for a while, and I have one that's already ready to go at the next stage. Remember, you would cover that before you put that away, like we did here. So we have the saran wrap over the top. Get some off my counter here. And you're going to pull that away, and it's all right if it's a little bit ragged there looking. And we're simply going to try and grab those sides of the aluminum foil, which is why we left it there, and use that to pull out our dish here. Let's see if I can get my cutting board up here. And we're simply going to set that on there and then start peeling the aluminum foil away. And just remember that you do want to get it all. If it falls apart, that really doesn't matter. Now, because it's going to be frozen solid at this stage, what you're going to have to do is let it sit for a while, probably about 10 minutes before you can actually do the cutting. And once that takes place, see if I can transfer it over here to our tray. Once it's thawed for about 10 minutes, we're going to slice it up. And then I'm going to leave it whole at this point in time. But then depending on what holiday you're going for, I'm using some blueberries, so this could go with a patriotic holiday. And I'm also going to put on some strawberries. If you did just strawberries, it would be great for Valentine's Day or Christmas holidays. But you can see you have a lot of choices here, and we're simply going to add a lot of fruit to it. I've got about 2 cups of fruit. You could use more. And you may want to actually slice it before you add the fruit on it to make sure that everybody gets plenty of fruit. It's very simple. It allows you a lot of creativity. This is one I hope you're going to try. It's frozen fruit dessert for Oklahoma gardening. This is Barbara Brown.